Hello everyone. So in this video we'll be learning about the React hook forms and we'll be using some validations in this to validate our form, and we'll be using it in a very less time, less than 20 minutes. I'll try my best to do that. So let's start, and I'll be using the controller of the React hook form. You can definitely go with the register part, the register thing. I'll be using controller, as controller gives you a bunch of other options, and also it helps you to use in the different libraries like MUI, AATD or any other forms. Any other libraries inputs can be easily used in its render functions. So you can go through this through the documentation of the React hook form, where you can find what it takes, like name, control, render. Name is the normal React hook form's unique name for the field. Then you have the control. The control is used to invoke the forms, and it is also provided by the React hook form. Then you have the render function. Render is basically it returns the input boxes which we need to render in our browsers. Default values is the default value which we want to give to the particular input, and all. Rules can be if you have a simple rule like it's required and something like that, you can definitely go with the rules. It's the simple, you just have to define required is equal to true. That's all. Now you have disable and stored unregistered thing. These are, means if you go through the documentations, you can just read and just get to know what it does. Now the control render functions gives us the field, and field has this different functions which we need to manipulate the input boxes, right? Now we have the field state which gives us the invalid and the error things from our form object. Now you can go with the form states also, but very less we need it. I don't think we need it. Only errors is mostly needed, and sometimes is submitting or this valid thing is needed to disable the input boxes while submitting, and errors to show the errors if we got any validations error like that. Okay, here we have the example as well, how we can use the controller, the form handle submit from the use form. Now we can just have a controller which will have a render thing. Render will have the input boxes or whatever we want to render, like here he is using the date picker, but we'll be using input instead. Okay, now let's just get into our code. So I'll be using a Monstack project which I did almost a year back. So I'll be using this project to demonstrate the validations. So prerequisites of this videos are on the libraries. You'll need a yup for the validation, React hook form for the forms. Then you'll have a React hook forms resolvers which will be needed to communicate between the React hook form and the yup schemas, right? I'll just show you how we can do that as well. So this is our register component which I built. So in this we are using the traditional way we used to do, like we have defined an input on this on change. We are capturing the event, and the event gives us the values from the target. So, and also on the until submit we are just using the on submit functions from the form, and on that we are making us the for the event we are just preventing the event's default behavior, and then we are just submitting the form to the backend server. I haven't started the backend server, so I'll not focus on that. I'll just comment it out. Okay, and we'll not need that. I'll just show you the validations. That's what the motive of this video is. So let's go again. So first of all, we'll need a wrapper thing, the form provider, which we need to make. So let me make that for you first. In this form provider, first of all we'll need a form provider, and this will take methods, the methods which will define in the register component. These are the use form methods. Basically the whatever use form from the React hook form needs to be passed here. Okay, I'm destructuring the props here. You might be very much comfortable with this, I guess. Again, I don't think this is needed, sorry. You can just use and so the form provider is done. Next is the form. We'll be using our HTML form here. This form will just help us to get the on submit functions to be captured. So in this I'll just again call the on submitted, sorry, which will get again back from the register component. Then we'll have some other, suppose we have some class names or something like that which needs to be passed on. It can be passed from the REST props. These are known as the REST props, which we don't means primarily we don't know what names or what kind of props will pass, but it will just wrap the all other props after this and just put it here one by one. That's how it works. And also we'll have a children here. This children will be the children which will render. So this is the form provider for us. And also we'll need a input. So instead of making 3-4 controllers, what I prefer is I'll just make a RHF input, and here I'll define as a component which can be used later on everywhere. You can do as same as well. Now in this what I will do is just go to the back here, copy this part, just paste down it here. Now the controller will be getting from the React hook form. This control we can get either here, we can use form context or we can get back from the register component where we will calling this particular input boxes, right? And since you are not using the use form context, see there's something like this thing is there. If you want context, now what it does is, if at the register component, let me just do one fast change, form provider. Okay, so RHF form provider, right? So in this one, first of all, this will not come here, so I'll just comment it out for now. So if you have wrapped the whole form with the form provider of the React hook form, it works as a wrapper. The context wrapper, if you have used the use context API of React, so it works as the wrapper, and anything inside this form, suppose there will be bunch of controllers, second controller, third controller here. So if the controller is within the form provider, you can just get the control object. How the means this control only help us to get all the particular values of this form or other functions as well. Suppose it is valid or not, this control help us to interact between the use form and our input boxes, right? So I'm not going to use this right now, so I'll just delete this from here, and instead of this date picker, I'll be using one of our input boxes. So let me just copy this input box here, bring it here and paste down here, right? And also we'll not be defining the type nor as the on change here. See, the field object here gives us on change, on blur, and the value of the particular field based on the name. So we'll first of all need a name. So let me just put a name as a prop here, which we'll be getting, and then other props here. So suppose we have some other props which we need to pass, like type and other things. We can pass it directly here, and the other rest props will help us to destructure it here. Now the field part. So instead of defining one by one the on change, on blur and value, what we can do here is just delete this part and again just put it like this, and this will put all the field objects directly here. Okay, but we'll need one more thing here, is field state, I guess, if I'm not wrong. Then now for this error will help us to print our error. So if there is an error, we'll print the error dot message, right? And also we'll be using a text red of 600. This is a Tailwind class name. You might be aware of Tailwind. If not, then just go through the Tailwind website. It's much easier than Bootstrap, I guess. I feel it easier. So this is our input component is ready to be used multiple times. So here we come. The RHF form provider is already wrapped, but we need to define many things. Like if you remember, we had the method there. Let me do one thing here. Let me just show you the form context as well, because you might need it, because if you are using a long forms like 13-14 fields, you don't want to pass every time the control object from there to here. So what you can do is control use form context. Okay, let me just delete this context from here. Good. Now coming back to the register, first of all we need to define some things. First of all comes in this thing is the default values. Default values are simple name, email, then we have the password. These are the three fields and these are the default values for that fields. This is so simple. Okay. Now then we have to define our methods. So const methods is equal to use form from the React hook form, and it will take three things. So first of all comes the mode. Mode can be on change, on blur, or not submit. So it's asking us to trigger the validations at which mode. So you can go with the on blur. Suppose you have filled the form, clicked outside of the input box, you'll just trigger the validations. You can keep the on change, so every time you type, the validations will be triggered. Or you can do it on submit or on touch as well. These are the options. So I'll go with the on change, and then comes the resolver here. Resolver will be our yup resolver. Might not be writing the correct spelling. I don't remember this thing, but let me try to import if this works. Yep. And we need to define this schema as well. So const schema. For that, first of all, we need to import our yup. So import everything that is star as yup from yep, right. So did you got this? Import star everything as yep from yep. This is so simple. Got it? Now we have the schema. So each schema will be very simple. First of all, it will be of type object. So yep dot object. This means the end data which the form will return us will be in the type of object. Okay. Now the object will definitely have this curly braces here. And in this we'll have the validations for name, email and password. So first of all, I'll write name. Again, the name will be of type yep string and it is a required. Yep dot string is a function, sorry, so let me do it. And required, and if it is not fulfilled, the message will be name is required. Okay, the same goes for the other two as well. So email, password. Now the email will also have an extra thing, yep dot string dot email. Okay, so definitely the email will be of type string, as we know that, and but it will have an additional check of the email. So it will check for if email things like if it has dot at the rate and other things. So password will be of type string and it is a required thing for sure. Excuse me guys. But we can have an additional checks like that small letter case and that thing. So I just got this what it's called regex here from the Stack Overflow. So how we check the regex in yep is very simple. Dot matches, pass the regex formula, and if it isn't fulfilled, suppose it's fulfilled, then it will not go into the error state. But if it isn't fulfilled, then what it will give? It will throw as an error that password must contain small case, uppercase, symbol, and uppercase symbol and numbers as well. Okay, so schema is ready and we'll go again next. Schema is done. Now we'll have to define the controls. Since we don't need control, we'll just have one thing in the from our use form part. So handle submit, but handle submit is already defined, so I'll just change the name to the on submit. Handle submit, this will be from our methods. Okay, so we are using this method, basically we are using this use form. Okay, and so let's just one more thing. The form provider takes the methods as we have passed, if you remember that, and on submit will be using the handle submit, and this handle submit will have, okay, once again, so handle submit is by our use form, and then on that we'll be passing this on submit. So instead of this event, we'll directly get the data object. If the validation is successful, we will get the data here, right? Now let's just replace this input boxes with our input. Ref input. So and also put this here. So it will just take a name will be simple of name as, let me delete this, it will be of email, and also the type here will be a female, so that also our standard HTML will check for the type. And for password as well, we'll have a password here. You can also use the type password. For now I am going with the basic text part. So let's just see if our form is still working. It's working. And there's one thing called watch. Watch is used to get the current values of the form fields. So suppose, let me console ddd watch. Watch will just, suppose, let's take for the name part. Currently it's undefined. Let me just refresh once. So still undefined. Okay, it's undefined because I haven't passed the default values here. And default value of this is an empty string. So let me just refresh this. Now it hasn't gone to the empty string now. Let me type here something so you can see it's coming here. And also on the on change, when we went back, it's saying that name is required. Even if we submit our form, it's giving us the errors for all the three. These errors are defined in the input box here, error.message. Okay, so let me just once correctly fill the form, test@test.com, and for the password, let me see, it's even giving us the error of letters and all things like that. But by mistake I have written everything, just a special character is needed. Yes, so the validation is working fine, as you can check. Just after the error goes away. And if the error has completely validated, means there's no errors in the form, and if we submit, there we should get the object here. So for that, let me just, if you remember, this is in our on submit part, console log the whole data. Okay, so once we get this data, we can directly pass to our Axios, and we can just store this data in our backend servers or database, and which we can use later on. So basically you got the idea that we can define the form provider in that form inputs, and the form inputs will take the name for a unique property. You can have various types, like type password can be passed here. Let me just show you that too. So now it's a password. Good. So this was all for a basic idea of React hook forms and how to use it in a React project, so that you can have less effort on the validations with the yup. And also going to the schema can be of various types. Suppose now we are just using a simple object, but it can be of type arrays, but generally we have the object only because we need to send the JSON object to the backend most of the time. But I'm not saying that it's 100% the object part only. Even going forward, you can have an object here as well. Suppose we needed address. So what you can do here is, let me just, so yep, dot object, and this object will again have a, suppose city is required, state is required. So now if you can check, in this we get an object called form state. So it returns us the is valid property. If a form is validated, it has a is valid thing. So in this you can just use is valid to disable and enable the submit buttons. If the form is completely validated, you can just enable the submit buttons, or else you can have the disabled property there. But for now I'll just use the errors, and I'll try to show you the error here. So let me refresh our form and try to submit this. So these were already there, but still now in the address you have the city and state too. So suppose you had a form like let me show you that too, so that you have a better idea on the next time. Sorry. And so name will be address dot city, and second one will be name dot state. This was only written here, I guess. Yes. So the benefit of this thing is that you see this in a single line, but when you will be submitting this data, the address object will actually have the city and state append to that object, address object. That's the beauty of this thing. So once again I'll try to upload this code on the GitHub and provide you with the link, and I hope that it gave you some good information. So if you like this video, please subscribe the channel, and also please share the video so that it can help any React developer out there. So thank you guys, everyone. Bye everyone. Thank you. Meet you in the next video as soon as possible. Bye everyone.